now.
All right. Yeah, so thank you for coming. My name is Kevin Day. I typically do not present, and that'll probably be pretty obvious as I make it. Well, it probably already is pretty obvious. I am the research and community engagement specialist at SafeLink Alberta. So I'm usually working behind the scenes, not in front of the camera. So yeah, so I'm going to present a presentation called Mental Health, Substance Use, and the Trades. I will just get through some stuff here first, and then kind of explain what the presentation is kind of about. So first, I just want to do a land acknowledgement. So we'd like to acknowledge that we are meeting today on the traditional territories of the I'm sorry, the Niitsitapi, the Siksika, the Piikani, the Kainai, as well as Tsuut'ina and the Nakota, and on the lands which border the traditional territories of the Cree, Sioux, and I don't know how to say that. I'm so sorry. Of the Ojibwe and everyone who makes their home in Treaty 7 and Treaty 4 regions of southern Alberta. Okay. So we'll just quickly go do some housekeeping before we get started with the presentation. So this is agenda. We'll quickly talk about the agency overview, the project introduction, why we decided to do this project, why people use substances in the trade, the drug toxicity emergency in Canada. We'll talk a little bit about harm reduction, common drugs that are found in the workplace, motivations to use, workplace and industry culture, apprenticeship, and a little bit on depression and suicide resources. The presentation is called Mental Health and Substance Use in the Trades, but we partnered with the Distress Center to create this, and we are more of the substance use side. So this presentation will be more substance use than mental health. So just a little bit about SafeLink Alberta. We've been serving the community since 1983. Our mission is to reduce the harms associated by sexual activity and substance use by offering low barrier, non-judgmental, and informed programs and services. Our vision is inclusive, empowered, and healthier communities. We have offices in Medicine and Calgary. We serve people living with HIV and hepatitis C. We serve members of priority populations engaging in activity. Sorry, my voice is just gone. I don't know. Engaging where they are at higher risk of contracting STBIs. So this would include the SHIFT program, which works with sex workers in Calgary, the ethnocultural communities with a focus on African, Caribbean, and Black communities, cis and trans, gay, bi, and queer guys, Indigenous communities, people who use substances, and people of reproductive age and ability. So that's the WELL program, which is in Medicine Hat. Yeah, so I'm just kind of looking this way too because my notes are over here, so I have two screens going just so everybody knows what I'm doing. So this project was brought to us by the Calgary Foundation, and so the trades represent one of the largest industries in North America. It's huge in Alberta. And in Canada, tradesmen are disproportionately impacted by the consequences associated with mental health and substance use. So the study aimed to understand what specific factors contribute to the increased risk of men in the trades developing mental health and substance use related issues. Throughout the study, we hoped to develop a workshop to address the unique challenges within the trades industry. So we used a participatory action research approach, and we conducted an environmental scan using semi-structured qualitative interviews with tradesmen, post-secondary institutions, and several other industry professionals. And we examined specifically what factors are contributing to the tradesmen's suffering and the adverse outcomes associated with poor mental health and substance use. And it was a challenge due to the stigma of substance use within the trades. It was a challenge to interview anybody. Very few people were willing to meet with me, but we managed to speak to 15 tradesmen and spoke to 3 post-secondary institutions in Alberta. And what we found was the most commonly used substances on the job sites other than caffeine was, in order, alcohol, cannabis, cocaine, methamphetamine, and opioids. And the most common reason for use was injury, long hours, and unreasonable expectations, and social norms. Okay, so just touch a little bit here on the current drug toxicity crisis in Canada. So between January 2016, when this wave of the drug toxicity crisis began, to March of 2023, there has been just over 38,000 apparent opioid toxicity deaths. Males accounted for 73% of accidental apparent opioid deaths this year, from January to March of 2023. And so that number has actually gone down a little bit. So last year, that number was at 75%. I mean, that's not a significant change, but you just never know. So, and then between January 2016 and March 2023, almost 38,000 opioid-related and 16,000 stimulant-related poisoning hospitalizations occurred. So I'll just quickly go through this. If I'm moving quick, it's because I have a lot of slides, so I probably put too many in. So I'm going to have to, we may not get through all of them as well. But so in Canada, 21 people die every day due to accidental drug poisonings. And so 53% of poisoning deaths involve a stimulant. 63% of those involved cocaine, while 52% involved methamphetamine. So what this tells you is that it's, people call it the opioid crisis, but it's that's why we call it the drug toxicity crisis, because you just don't know what you're getting. People may be thinking they're doing cocaine, but there could be fentanyl in it, or vice versa. So this is why the numbers just keep increasing. In Alberta, so there's approximately 5 people that die every day due to accidental drug poisoning, and over 50% of these poisonings occur in private residence, which kind of points towards that stigma piece, and that the importance of supervised consumption, because if you use you're alone in your house, if you overdose, nobody's going to find you on time. So and again, it's not just the opioids. So far in this year, from January to August of 2023, there's already been 1,400 deaths in Alberta, and the media and rumors say that 2021 was the most deadly year for the opioid, or for the overdose crisis. But so far this year is actually the most, the deadliest. If you think about all of 2021, there was 1,800 deaths for that whole year, and only up to August of this year, we're already at 1,400. So, and that number will rise a lot by the time they get everything counted. My little picture keeps going over all my writing. So in Alberta, it's a massive industry, obviously. There's approximately 220,000 people employed within the construction industry, and it's male dominated. 84% of the construction workers are male, and 81% were aged 15 to 54. In 2023, 73% of apparent opioid-related deaths were men, and 25 to 49, so they were 25 to 49 years old. That was the greatest number of people impacted. And so what this does is it shows you the link between the trades and the people, the highest populations that are dying. So it just shows the connection. So let's talk a little bit about why people use drugs in the trades. And so this is called the iceberg of risk. And so up top of the iceberg on the ice there is the unhealthy substance use, but below are the things that the people don't see, the reasons why people are using. So in the trades, that's toxic masculinity, blame culture, vulnerability, homophobia, stigma, violence, discrimination. It's all these, and these are just some. These are just a few. There's many. Myself, I was I guess I didn't really introduce myself, but part of the reason I did this, worked on this project, was because I was a tradesman for 12 years. I was a journeyman plumber and a Class A gas fitter. So I lived through all this. I witnessed this. I witnessed the racism and discrimination, and it's very apparent, and it's very it's hard for a lot of people to live through. They just want to go to their job and work, and then they're abused, sometimes physically, emotionally, and so then people turn to substances to ease whatever pain they're experiencing. So harm reduction, that's what SafeLink Alberta is all about. This is our it's always people directed towards substance use, but harm reductions in every aspect of life. It's just it's a philosophy. SafeLink made this. We made this definition of harm reduction. It's the policy, strategies, and programs focused on reducing the harms caused by social, medical, and environmental inequalities, which influence how people engaged in higher risk activities associated with sexual activity and substance use. So like harm reduction is everywhere, and in this picture, it's, you won't go boating without a life jacket. A life jacket's harm reduction. You won't jump out of an airplane without a life jacket, I would assume, right? Because, that's harm reduction. Seatbelts, sunscreen. These are all different methods of harm reduction. So the principle of harm reduction is it's a public health approach, which is rooted in disease prevention, and its emphasis is on the role of the social social determinants of health, specifically how social and economic determinants affect health outcomes and population. It's the promotion of human rights and dignity. So it's the promotion of self-determination and autonomy, respect, and self-preservation. It focuses on reducing harm. Obviously, it's in the name. It doesn't focus on abstinence necessarily, or stopping a behavior. But it's certainly, if that's what is right for the person, then we support that. But it's working on working with the individual to reduce potential harms at all levels. It's pragmatic and practical, so focuses on reducing harm over the prohibitionist ideals, and it understands sex and substance use as part of the human experience and will continue to be part of the human experience. And it's actually very cost effective, and it's evidence-based. And then there's the participation of the people. So people's lived or living experience. So it's community driven. It's about autonomy, like I had mentioned, and it's non-judgmental and value neutral. So this kind of goes to people saying like harm reduction is against treatment or it's against abstinence. No, we just want what's right for the person, and basically want to keep the person alive and as healthy as possible moving forward. So, oh, I forgot one. Adaptive and innovative. So because it is rooted in evidence, it's the toxic supplies, it's constantly evolving. So harm reduction has to adapt as the crisis evolves as well. So these are just some examples of harm reduction in the trades. So like a hard hat, a fall arrest gear, a visi vest, steel-toed boots, safety glasses, welder's hood, lockout and takeout procedures for electricians, breakers, and first aid kits. So these are just some examples that shows the harm reduction is even in the trades. So why do people use drugs? So with the people that we spoke to, that we consulted with, this is kind of what what all the numbers broke down to. Obviously, this doesn't equal 100% because some people had more than one answer, but it came down to mental health, injury, racism and discrimination, bullying, work conditions, age, social norms, and external reasons. So one of the bigger reasons people use is injury. There's chronic pain, which is very common in the trades. So this is a type of pain that'll last at least 3 months. And there's two types of chronic pain: primary and secondary pain. The primary pain persists after the body has healed. So like lower back pain, whereas secondary pain occurs together with underlying diseases or issues. So that could be like arthritis or cancer, that kind of thing. And opioids are very common for this type of treatment for chronic pain, which, I mean, it's a good thing. That people need it. There's definitely some severe injuries on the job site. The issue with opioids is it does make you tired, groggy. You're not fully there sometimes. And so that can make you a hazard on the job site. The issue is with the trades, if sometimes if you're not there to work, your position's going to get filled. So people will, try other methods. They'll use more drugs, they use different kind of drugs. And I was speaking to one organizer or one company, and they had mentioned that even if their staff uses CBD, so a type of cannabis, the non-psychoactive side of cannabis, even if they find any cannabis in their blood, they're fired on the spot, which CBD is great for chronic pain, and like I said, there's no psychoactive effects. So it's just an example of how or companies and organizations, they really need to adapt their policies to, not seeing certain drugs as a monster, or especially if they're not having those psychoactive effects.
Kevin, there's a question in the chat that asks, is that the reason why cocaine is more popular than opioids, because of the psychoactive effects and drowsiness of opioids over where cocaine will typically lift people's energies up?
Yeah, so that's a great question. We'll talk a little bit more about that, but people, they'll typically use, so this is what, through our consultations, they'll typically use like meth and cocaine to, as a result of like the super long hours, and the unreasonable expectations. They expect you to get things done, that's probably not safe, and when it's hard on your body and stuff. So that's when people will start using the stimulants to increase their productivity, increase their focus, and they stay awake, which is, when you're talking about impairments in the job site, one of the biggest impairments is fatigue, right? It's not just substances. It's there's a lot of other things to consider. So, I can speak for myself. When I was a gas fitter in northern Alberta, I came home every night, and I'd be 5 hours north, so it'd be an 18-20 hour day, and I'd be driving home at 3 a.m. And if I didn't have my stimulant, I'd be a hazard on the road, right? Like it kept me alive. You're not really given a choice at that point, So it's that's more of the reason people are using cocaine, I suppose. It's not really for pain relief, although I suppose it could be, but people, and they may try it to counteract the effects of the the opioid, but that's when you get into stuff that's called a speedball, and so then you're up and you're down, you're up and you're down, and which would make it really, really difficult to work. So another issue on the job site is racism. I witnessed this a lot when I was in the trades. It was quite disturbing. So substance use is prevalent among all communities and all backgrounds. Racism is deeply rooted in substance use and drug policy in Canada, and it's been well documented that the war on drugs impacts people of racialized groups disproportionately. So racism is an issue in the workplace. So understanding the multifaceted associations between workplace racial discrimination and negative emotions due to poor treatment based on a person's race and substance use is critical in helping to reduce the risk of adverse mental health and physical health outcomes. Okay, so then there's LGBTQ 2 plus. I think I'm missing one there, so I apologize if I am. So this is a discrimination. So the workplace is somewhere in which people's gender identities and sexual orientations are negotiated and constrained. Sexual and gender minorities make decisions about coming out partly based on the response to their employer context, whether it'll be safe, and how they assess this danger of disclosing versus the dangers of not disclosing. So agency isn't it's not a given. So as coworkers may make disclosures and or encourage concealment of your and so in hope of protecting the person from abuse. If one does disclose, unfortunately, stigma is quite common, as is biased treatment or being seen as unprofessional. So it's not uncommon for the guys to be bragging about last night they with whatever they did with their wife or their girlfriend or the lady they met at the bar. But if myself, for example, were to say, yeah, I met a guy last night, brought him home, we had sex, and it was a great night, that would be shut down, right? People automatically, not only would it be shut down, they would, a lot of the times the discrimination would be it would be horrible, and which is why people struggle to come out in the trades, because it's not safe. And this isn't, I'm not saying that every company or every that is like that, that's not true, but it's it's too many companies, too many job sites, all that that is true. So this is why we need to make people understand, like everybody's lifestyle is their own, and that's okay. So some risk factors that increase your risk of developing a substance use disorder is your mental health, of course, and something called adverse childhood experiences. Oh, my slides got all messed up. Oh well, who knows what I did. So these adverse childhood trauma is they're events that occur as children that cause trauma. And so the adverse childhood experiences screening, or the ACE screening, is a way for professionals to learn whether a client has had traumatic or stressful childhood experiences. The more traumatic trauma experience, the more individuals' mental and physical health is bombarded with their effects, making it difficult for the individual to sort through these issues later in life. So, and the most common types of ACEs are emotional abuse, physical abuse, sexual abuse, violence in the home, substance use issues in the home, mental health issues in the home, emotional neglect, physical neglect, divorce and separation of parents, and having a household member go to prison. I mean, a majority of folks probably have experienced, one of these at least in their life, but so it's the more you have, the more likely you are to struggle later in life with certain situations. Another risk is something called attention deficit hyperactive disorder, or ADHD. So it's very common among adults, with a prevalence up to 5%, which is a really high number. So it impacts all ethnicities. Holy, I can't speak English today. And socioeconomic backgrounds. And less than 20% of adults with ADHD are aware of their diagnosis. I myself was diagnosed with ADHD when I was almost 40. And if you know me, I should have been diagnosed when I was 7, right? Like it's, I was off the walls, I couldn't sit still, struggled in school. But when I hit my 20s, I found stimulants. And so stimulants have, to a point, have the opposite effect on people with ADHD. So when I found stimulants, it had a calming effect on me. Whereas my friends who were doing meth or coke, they were the smartest people in the world. They were off the walls, but it calmed me. And so it really helped me. But that's not to say that I couldn't take a certain amount and then that therapeutic value was gone. And I would be off the walls and the smartest man in the world and everything too. But this is so the medication for ADHD is amphetamines. So methamphetamines is is a type of amphetamine. And way back in they still actually prescribe it's called disoxin, which is medicinal methamphetamine, but that's they still actually prescribe that in the States. So it for ADHD. So that's another reason you'll see people using stimulants on the job site, because it actually calms their brain and they can focus. And then another one, of course, is genetics. So it's not uncommon for people to believe that their genetics are an inalterable fate. So this is called neurogenetic determinism. This understanding of substance use disorder may contribute to both substance user and society to believe that there's no point in seeking assistance with substance use because your genetics are set and there's no way to change that. The reality is, though, that an individual's genetics may influence their risky behavior, but does not, it hopelessly control it. There's a lot of factors that need to be considered when you're addressing substance use. Obviously, that's why you can't have a cookie cutter system, where you just send everybody to treatment, because that may not be the right option for them. So some of you may have heard the alcohol gene hypothesis. So it's basically stating that if you've got this gene, you're hopelessly addicted to alcohol. This is kind of goes with the addictive personality. This is so there is truth to it, but it's also very, very false. A good example would be there's not a you're a great jackhammer gene, right? Or there's not a you're super good at sex gene, right? So why would there be an alcohol gene? It's too substance use is too complex to put in one gene. So it's substance use is polygenetic, is I guess what I'm trying to say. Then there's epigenetics. Epigenetics are confusing, but really fascinating. So they're stable, but potentially reversible alterations in a cell's genetic information that results in changes in gene expression, but does not involve changes in the underlying DNA expression. So basically what they are is epigenetics are like a light switch in your DNA. It's a process which environmental factors potentially can alter your gene's expression. This offers new insight to not only substance use, but also a wide range of other neurobehavioral disorders. And for some reason, the influence of in a person's environment influences genetics. When it influences genetic expression, it doesn't appear to be limited to only one generation. That can actually, that gene expression can be passed from one generation to another generation, which really makes no sense, but it is just the way it is. So epigenetic changes have potential to influence not only the individual, but their children as well. So a person's environment or their traumatic events may actually alter the individual's genetic expression in a way that puts them at increased risk for substance use disorder. The neat thing about it is, though, is that switch in your DNA can be turned off again. So it is reversible. So this is fascinating stuff. So we'll talk about, I think I got enough time here, work conditions and industry culture. So social norms are big in the trades. You know, it's the notion of work hard, play hard, and that mentality is consistent in many trades on especially earlier in their career. So for numerous companies and individuals that we spoke to, their company has a zero tolerance policy for substance use. Yet the trades are certainly not immune to employing people who indulge in regulated substances, you know, such as alcohol. Yet it's very common for individuals to show up to work hungover and still feel the effects from the night before, and people don't really, bat an eyelash at it, even though anybody who's ever been impaired at work or sorry, hungover at work knows that you're not functioning at 100%, and that's if you're operating heavy machinery or working with other people who rely on you, a hangover is not a good thing. So there's a double standard when it comes to certain substances. Some are glorified, some are demonized. Alcohol and cocaine are examples of, the key ingredients, if you will, to play hard components of the hard work slogan, and it's often glorified with their buddies. Whereas if you're discussing other substances like opioids, if you were injecting opioids or smoking meth over the weekend, people are going to look at you different, and you're met with stigma and shame, right? And it's not, you can't say that one substance is better than the other, right? It's a substance is a substance, right? It's not inherently evil. It's how it interacts with the body, and what whether people know what they're taking or not. So okay, then there's work conditions, and so this is kind of where we were talking earlier about cocaine with people taking cocaine or amphetamines or methamphetamines or whatever to address the long hours. So until recently, research has focused on tradesmen changing their own behaviors and failed to examine the impact that a changing workplace or policies actually have on the tradesmen. So work organizations and the environmental factors such as supervisor support, safer practices from coworkers, the balance between missed work days, poor health, and the use of pain medications on the job can really affect how a person works. So like I mentioned before, the hours are very, or can be very, very long. You work until the job's done sometimes, depending if you're with a union or not. But if you're not with a union, even if you are with a union, it just depends on the job site. But like I mentioned, it wasn't uncommon for me to work till, start my day at 7, between 7 and 8, and then I'd work sometimes till 3 a.m. And that's me, that'd be, 5, 6 hours of me on the highway driving too. So, and then expected to be at work at 7 or 8 in the morning again the next day. A person can't live like that, right? So you're gonna introduce things to your body to um, keep you moving forward. And that unfortunately with substances like cocaine or meth or amphetamines, it may work for a little while, but eventually your body can only take so much of that. Well, so, and then there's unreasonable expectations. So, this can be a result of poor planning, inaccurate estimates of cost, resources, time, ineffective communication. So, if um, the boss underbid a job, in order to save that money, they expect everybody to work faster, harder, to save them money, not taking into account that a person just can't work like that. So, and then there's physically and mentally demanding conditions. It's a dangerous job. For the most part, I've really found that the trades have an expiry date. I had to stop the trades because of too many injuries, head injuries. So, and for a lot of people, it's their back or their joints or what have you. So, um, but like I myself, I was lucky. I had a lot of support coming out of it, and I was able to go to school. Whereas, like a lot of people don't have the support that I had. So, they're they have to keep working in trades, and how are they going to do that? Well, they got to hide the pain. So, otherwise, their position is going to be taken, and so that's when you'll start, maybe using opioids on the job, small amounts, and then um, when that opioid's taken away, if it's a prescribed opioid, um, the pain doesn't go away. The prescribed opioid goes away. The pain doesn't go away. So some people will have to find other methods. So sometimes that is finding street drugs. I'd say heroin, but there's no heroin anymore. So probably fentanyl that or um, uh, prescribed medication that people are selling on the street. Regardless, you don't really know what you're getting. But it's in order to continue working, you have to dampen that pain, and so that's what you're forced to do. And there's also being away from home. It's hard on people. Guys will be away for 2-3 weeks at a time while their families are at home, and it's isolating and it's lonely. And it's while you're out, while you're up at Fort Mac or wherever you are, maybe the only thing to do is to drink. So it's, that's what everybody else does. And so that's what you do. It just kind of gets into a routine, and it kind of just makes you go to work, you drink, you fall asleep, you go, it's just the reality of some trades. And finally, it's being short staffed. The trades are always short staffed. It's just every year after every year, the trades get bigger, the industry gets huge, and now there's people, the older guys are retiring, and so now there's going to be a need for more guys coming up, and there isn't the people to do it. So people are working short staffs, and so they have to do more hours, again, unrealistic expectations, and it's kind of just a vicious cycle. Oh, I had all those. Sorry. Oh, I was going to talk a little bit about apprenticeship as well. So, apprentices are typically, not always, but typically young guys, right? Early 20s or whatever. And so, that's kind of when guys are drinking and stuff. But apprentices are quite often, I try to be careful when I say this because there are some wonderful journeymen and there's some but I've witnessed so many um, apprentices be treated just terribly by their journeymen or their supervisors. Um, and whereas you just wouldn't in other industries, you wouldn't get away with the same maltreatment, right? Like if in this, this work, if I was treated the same way as some of the apprentices were in the trades, I'd be fired on the spot. So the apprentices, they have extra to worry about, right? They're young, they're doing school at the same time. Plus, they're given the kind of the lousy jobs, and they're trying to learn the trade as they go along. Plus, sometimes they're being treated very poorly by whoever their supervisor is. So again, sometimes people will turn to substances as well. Yeah, and so um, oops, just talk about. I'm actually not going to talk about. I don't know why I put that on there. About depression and suicide. I don't like to talk about suicide. It's too personal for me. So I will put these up though. So these, whoopsie, how do I go back? These are supports for guys who are struggling with mental health issues, depression, suicidal ideation, what have you. Buddy Up is probably the most recognized. I don't know if it's an organization or what, but it's online. It's fun, and you meet equal, or similar-minded people, and it's support's really, really important when when things are a little bit darker and stuff. But anyway, so that is my. Oh, these are the references. They're very important. But yeah, that's it. That's any questions?
Thanks, Kevin. Um, a reminder, if folks do want to submit questions, you can submit them through the Q&A option. Otherwise, just a big thank you to Kevin and for all our attendees for coming. We'll stick around until everybody has left to make sure nobody has any questions. But if you do, feel free to shoot them in the Q&A and we can have a bit of a discussion. What was the most interesting thing that this is just a random question that I'm coming up with, while we wait for folks, but what was the most surprising fact that you learned while you were researching or doing this project, Kevin?
Hmm.
Because I know a lot of it aligned with things that you'd experienced. Was there anything that
Hmm.
popped up that you were
Is
surprised?
Yeah, is the unwillingness to talk about it.
Mm,
I have a lot of friends who are in the trades and stuff, and they still wouldn't talk to me. And it's a fear of getting back to their supervisors, and it's, a lot of it was, well, I don't do that shit, right? I'm like, you don't do what shit? I'm like, I've, you know, drank lots with you, or I've done a line or two with you over the years. You don't do what shit? Well, I don't do opioids, or I don't do meth. And so I'm like, well, there's that hierarchy of substance use, right? And that was very, very apparent with
interesting.
with people in the trades for sure. Yeah.
Well, otherwise, I don't see any other questions coming in. So a big thanks out again to the folks who attended. And if you're like me and you process a little slower and you do have any questions that come in later, you can feel free to send us an email. Um, and we are happy to,
Oh, is there a question in? Oh, thank you.
yeah.
That's an easy question.
Um, and we are happy to answer your question via email as well. But otherwise, if there aren't any other questions, thank you all for coming.
Thanks, everybody.
Like I said, I wait until everybody is out of the webinar just to make sure everybody. Okay, well now it's just SafeLink people, so now I can kick them out. Okay, I'm kicking you out, Chinwei, Natasha. Thanks so much.
Oh
Yeah,
no,
okay,
Chinwei
great.
was on here too. Oh God.
No, you did great.
Oh, I did not. I kept
You
losing my
did
voice.
too.
Oh,
You did too do great.
no, thank you. I, I hate. I don't know why I am so intimidated by like online, like in person. I'm fine, but it's just as
Sure.
soon as I'm on, I don't know if it's like the technology. Just I don't know. Also, I don't like talking to nobody. That was
Yeah,
weird.
very
I
fair.
was talking to myself. Um,
Yeah, very fair.
Thank you very much for having my back, because yeah,
Yeah.
I I have no idea, like everything. I don't even know where this cord came from. Like, there's all this new stuff all over my desk, and then it's not plugged into the like and this has never happened. I'm like, I'm the only person that's in my office, so I don't know what the hell happened, but nothing was